Hi everyone, and welcome to Kayla, my little YouTube knitting podcast where I get to waffle on about my knitting. My name is Kelly and I am an Aussie knitter currently living in Germany. If you've watched some of my previous episodes, you'll know that one of the reasons why I started this podcast was really because I just love watching knitting YouTube podcasts. And some of my favorite style of podcasts are those ones where they talk about their plans or pattern ideas, top summer patterns, top winter patterns, all of those kinds of things, because I really love getting new pattern ideas and getting a bit of an idea about what people are working on. So I thought I would give that kind of my own version of that kind of a video a go today and share with you my holiday knitting plans for this summer. Also, if you've watched this podcast before, you will know that my summer holiday is going to be a little bit more intense, a little bit different in that we are, through these summer holidays, relocating our family from Germany back to Australia. So I'm considering my summer holidays to be around about 3 weeks that I have from when the removalists come and take everything out of our apartment, and we are living out of a suitcase before we then get on the flight back home to Australia. But it does mean that what I pack in that suitcase is all I will have. I'm not coming back home to a yarn stash because that stuff takes a little bit longer sitting on in a shipping container on a boat heading to Australia. Last time it took us about 6 months when we moved over here to get that container. There's a long and not very interesting story around that. It shouldn't take that long this time, but it does mean when I was pulling out yarns to plan for the next few weeks, it means the stuff that I'm not bringing with me, it's going to be a while until I see it again. No worries. I will undoubtedly also buy some souvenir yarns before I go home, and there are some great yarn shops in Australia that I'm really looking forward to visiting, so I will be fine. But it did mean that I needed to give my knitting plans for the next few weeks more consideration and more thought than I usually do. So I thought I would share with you what I've come up with. I had a couple of criteria in mind when I was doing my planning. The first is that I needed projects that were going to be small and light. I mean, it's common sense. I will have one suitcase that I need to live out of for not just the next few weeks, but probably the next couple of months. Much as I love my knitting, I need room for other things as well. So I needed to think of projects that were going to be really small and light. The good news is right now it's summer, so that's easy because it's certainly not the time of year to be working on a big, bulky winter sweater, even if it could fit in the suitcase. The other criteria that I had was that I wanted projects that were going to be keeping me interested and that were diverse. So I was looking for projects, something that would be a little bit more challenging keep me interested, as well as other projects that have a lot of mindless knitting, on-the-go knitting, things that I can just put down and pick up and not need to read a pattern and all of that. So I wanted kind of a combination of projects. And the last one was that I was looking for what I could knit from stash, because as much as I will buy some more yarn along the way, I didn't want to get anything new right now. I wanted to look at what was in my stash and make the use of that to take with me. So let's get on with it. So the first project that I have planned to knit, and will probably be my next cast on, is the lightweight Hipster Shawl by Locatelli. I I was gifted this pattern from Locatelli for taking part in her Hohiathon, was it called? I mentioned it in a previous episode. It was just a day that she said anyone who gets out there and does a run or a hike or some exercise, and she was send a photo and she was going to send a free pattern, which was incredibly generous. And so I'm really excited about this pattern. And I've forgotten her name. Oh, it's going to come to me in a minute. That's really frustrating. But from Fibrebound, the Fibrebound podcast, a lovely knitter based in Adelaide. I just watched her latest episode the other day and she knit this shawl and it looked magnificent. So that made me feel even more excited. I have this beautiful yarn that my friend gave to me as part of a yarn swap. And I talked about that last episode. And it's from Biffsugar Yarns in the color Fruit Salad. And I think it's going to look really fantastic. And I don't know how well it comes up on camera, but we've got these beautiful pinks and oranges, and then some other like splatterings of color in there as well, which should be lots of fun. One of the reasons why I want to cast this on next is because I would like to take part in the Across the Pond Shawl Cow, which is being run by Ruth from Ruth Loves to Knit podcast and Fernando from Little Monkeys and Me podcast. And all of these wonderful podcasts that I'm mentioning too, I will link down below to share the love a little bit, because they are all Fibrebound, Ruth Loves to Knit, Little Monkeys and Me, all excellent and wonderful, wonderful ladies who knit beautiful projects. So they're running the Across the Pond Shawl Cow for anyone who wants to knit some shawls. I took part last year and knit my very first shawl, which was a gift for my mum. And do you think I can remember what the pattern was? Sea waves. It kind of looked very coastal. My mum lives near the beach. And I knit that for her and sent it over to her. So I really would like to take part again this year. I think it runs until September. So I should be able to get it done on time, but you know, if not, I don't. But if I get it cast on next, then I should be okay. So that's the first pattern plan that I have. The next one that I want to knit is by PetiteKnit, Willum's Summer Overalls. And they're so adorable. So a little bit of background on why I'm knitting this one. It's not for me. But in the 3.5 years that I've been away, my brother and his partner had a little baby girl. And she's about 1.5 years now, and she was born around the time that I first started knitting. It was also in the middle of, well, we're still in the pandemic, but the pandemic was raging certainly at the time, and borders were closed in Australia, so I couldn't have even gotten over there to visit if I'd wanted to. And it's very hard to be away from family when there's big events like that happening. But at the time I knit her, as I said, I just started knitting, and I knit her a little baby hat, and I knit her a little blanket for the pram, and making those things just helped me feel, I'm going to get teary talking about it, but it just made me feel a little bit more connected to them. And that was a really special experience for me, that I could make something with my hands, putting in all that love and time, and send that over to them. And then last Christmas I knit her another little top. My memory is just gone because I can't remember the name of that, but I'll put a picture and write the name of the pattern there as well, because it was a fantastic pattern. It was and it came out really beautifully. So they're now having another baby. And this baby is due any minute now. Like, I'm waiting for that message to come through to say that the baby's here. And as soon as I heard they were having another baby, I had all the knitting ideas of all the things that I wanted to knit. And so far I haven't done anything. But I really want to make sure I get something so that I have, when I get to have all the baby cuddles and snuggles, something again that I've made for the new baby. So I thought these overalls looked completely adorable. I have leftover from my Sandawn sweater that I spoke about, I think, in my first episode. I knit that with Filcolana Anina, which is 100% superwash merino wool. and it's so beautiful and soft. And so I think that I have a couple of 2.5 balls left over, which should be enough to do the overalls. And I believe that Filcolana also recommends this yarn for baby knits, so I thought it would be perfect. And I really think this nice, it's the oatmeal colorway. I think that will look really nice for a bit of a gender neutral baby. We don't know whether it's going to be a little boy or a little girl. Doesn't matter. I think this is going to be a gorgeous color as well for a little baby knit. So that will be the next cast on as well. This is not necessarily in cast on order, but it's kind of turning out that way, I would expect as well. So the third one, I've got a shawl, I have a baby knit, I need a summer top. So I want to knit the Kayla tee by Megan Nodecker. I'm looking down because I have my laptop just down here to keep me, although I can't remember many other things, so at least I have that. It's a really, I haven't bought the pattern yet, so I don't quite know how the construction works, but it just looks like a lovely summer top. And I've been thinking about it for a while, so I'm excited to kind of cast that on and make that one. And I want to knit it in this yarn, the Silky Yak Singles in the Petrol colorway by Valborg. Isn't that a gorgeous color? I love it. It's one of my favorite colors. I was a bit worried that this tee, it might be a bit too dark for the tee because the Kayla top has some patterning along here. Again, as I said, I haven't read the pattern. I'm not sure what the stitch is or anything. But I think I'll do it anyway. I think it'll look fine. I think it'll look nice. And this is 65% merino, superwash, 50% yak, and 20% silk. So I think that's also really nice. With the silk, should make it nice and summery. I don't know what yak's like. I've never knit with yak fiber before. It's probably a bit warm, but I think this should look really good. So, summer top. The last of my summer holiday knitting plans is, I will show you the yarn first. I have this Knitting for Olive pure silk in the colorway Cognac. And when I bought this, I bought it intending to knit the Roman holiday top by Sari Nordlund. And I mentioned in one of my previous episodes that when the yarn arrived, I couldn't really see, I just couldn't put the top and this yarn color together. But the more I think about it, I think it'll probably look really nice. It will be fine. But you can tell by the way I'm speaking, I'm still not 100% sure about that. But I didn't want to go and buy more of the silk in a different colorway. I'd like to use what I've got, and I don't have much in this kind of a brown color. I know for some people it's really popular. It's not something I wear a lot of, but I do like it, and I think sometimes it's also nice to knit with colors that you don't use so much, so they fill some gaps in your wardrobe a little bit too. But the other top I'm thinking about is that I've seen a number of people have been knitting the Cumulus tee by PetiteKnit, and this would work for that as well. And I'm pretty sure I have enough yarn to do the tee as well, even if, or maybe it's got, she has slightly longer arms. So I could, if I ran out, I could just do slightly less. I'm sure I have nearly enough to do it. So I'm considering doing that. Or she has a, I'm not sure that's the Cumulus tee with the sleeves. Is it the Cumulus top or something that's more of a camisole version? I haven't decided 100% yet. I'm totally welcome to ideas. I guess what I'm looking for with this project is that really straightforward, lots of stockinette project that doesn't require too much complicated work. And I would like to use this yarn. So if you have any ideas, I'm totally open to throwing out both of these patterns and knitting something completely different. But I'm sure that both of these would be great. I should say as a disclaimer to all of these patterns, that I make no guarantees that I will 100% knit them. A, because I just have much less knitting time than I anticipated, or B, because I get distracted by something else and decide to cast on something completely different anyway. But you know, it's my knitting, I can do what I like. So, but I'm still thinking about the pattern for that one. I may go with the Roman Holiday because I already do own the pattern to that one, and it does look lovely. And Sari Nordlund, was it on her last podcast? She actually mentioned it as one of her favorite patterns that she always goes back to. No, it was, she was interviewed by, my mind is like a sieve at the moment, but on another podcast she was interviewed and she mentioned this pattern, and it made me think about it again. In the editing, I will remember what I'm talking about, and I will write the information there below. Yeah, so those are all the new cast-ons. I also have my socks here that I've done. I have some contrasting yarn that I will be working on. I am just going to do an afterthought heel, so that a lot of this is just knitting the sock tube, because I thought that's going to come really in handy, and this might be a good one for the aeroplane ride as well. And I also have a project that I have not shown since my first episode, because I started it, loved it, and I did nothing, absolutely nothing on it. But I'm not willing for it to go in the shipping container. It has to come with me because I really, really want this top. And that is here, the Poet sweater, by Sari Nordlund. And you can see I've done so little. I've done the yoke. It is a bit more, it's not really a summer top though. So it's possible that I will just really try and squeeze this into my suitcase and won't really work on it during my summer holidays, but will be the thing I work on when we do eventually arrive in Australia. We'll be arriving at the end of August, which is the end of winter, going into spring. So it's probably a nice time to be working on something like this before I go back to summer knitting, because yes, it will be double summer for me. So those are all of my knitting plans. I still have a few things on the needle, but my plan is to clear my needles over the next 2 weeks. And most of my projects are very, very near that stage. So it should be achievable. Fingers crossed. If not, all of these new cast-on plans are out the window. I don't know what people think. You might think this is not very many projects. You might think it's a lot. I probably think it is a lot. I think I am ambitious in what I think I can knit. But that's okay. I have no intentions of necessarily finishing it all in a 3-week summer holiday period. It's about getting things started and having different things to work on, and having things when I am back home in Australia and that I will be working on there as well. So it's not really my plans to knit and complete projects in the next 3 to 4 weeks, but probably in the next more 2 to 3 months. So yeah, that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Otherwise, I will probably do a normal podcast next week where I get to show you all of my finished objects, because I will have lots of them. I will speak. If I speak it will happen. We're going to have some really hot weather here this week. It's not too bad today. But I will be closing the blinds probably this afternoon to make sure that things don't heat up, because the next 2 days I think are going to be up to 36, which is pretty hot for this part of the world. And I know there are places in Europe and the UK that are even much hotter than that again. So if you are anywhere that's dealing with extreme temperatures at the moment, please stay safe and look after yourself. It's not a great time for knitting, I guess, as well, when we've got heat like this. So, but I hope you can find some escape. I thought tomorrow I might see if there's a in the original version, language version, i.e. if there's a movie in English somewhere at the cinema, and I might attempt cinema knitting to get some relief from the heat for a while, so we'll see. But otherwise, take care. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, leave a comment if you have any other pattern ideas. Not that I need any encouragement, but still. And have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.